From the moment humans first looked at the stars, they saw a serpent slithering through the cosmos. Not just one culture, not just one continent, everywhere. Ancient Egypt, Aboriginal Australia, the Mayan jungles, the Norse fjords, all whispered stories of a cosmic serpent shaping existence itself. What is it about this primordial being that haunts our myths, our art, even our nightmares? Today, we unravel 50 of the most persistent, surprising, and misunderstood legends about this entity. Some will shock you, some will make you question everything you thought you knew. And by the end, you'll see why the serpent isn't just a symbol, it's a mirror reflecting humanity's deepest fears, hopes, and mysteries, ready to meet the true architects of creation. Let's begin. Now, let's tackle our first myth head on, the idea that the cosmic serpent was the one and only architect of the universe. This belief pops up in some of the most fascinating corners of ancient mythology. Take the Aboriginal peoples of Australia, for instance. Their rainbow serpent, known as Jormungandr, isn't just a creature, it's the force that carved rivers, shaped mountains, and breathed life into the land. No other gods are needed in this story, the serpent does it all. Then there's the Aztec version, Quetzalcoatl, often depicted as a feathered serpent weaving the world into existence with nothing but its own divine will. At first glance, these tales seem to suggest the serpent worked alone, but here's where things get interesting. When we dig deeper, we find that many cultures actually pair their cosmic serpents with other creators. In Mesoamerica, Quetzalcoatl shares the stage with Tezcatlipoca, a rival god who helps or sometimes disrupts the act of creation. Over in Egypt, the serpent Nehebkau may coil through the chaos, but it's Ra, the sun god, who brings order. Even the Norse Jormungandr, that world-encircling serpent, exists alongside Odin and the other Aesir gods. So why does this myth of solo creation persist? It's partly because serpents are such powerful symbols of raw, untamed creativity, the kind that doesn't need a committee, but the truth is messier and far more compelling. These myths aren't about one being doing all the work. They're about balance, conflict, and collaboration. The serpent might lay the foundations, but it's rarely the only hand shaping the cosmos. And that's what makes these stories so enduring. They reflect the complexity of creation itself, where nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Next up, we'll unravel another layer of serpent lore, one that's been twisted into a single, oversimplified idea. Because when it comes to myths, the truth is always more slippery than we think. Now, let's slither into our next myth, one that's coiled in layers of misunderstanding. The Ouroboros, that ancient symbol of a serpent devouring its own tail, is often reduced to a simple emblem of cycles: birth, death, rebirth, rinse and repeat. But if we stop there, we miss the profound depths hidden in its loop. This symbol first slithered into history in ancient Egypt, where it wasn't just about repetition. The Ouroboros represented the unbroken unity of all things, the cosmos as a single, self-sustaining whole. The serpent's endless circle wasn't just spinning in place, it was holding the universe together, a cosmic glue binding creation and destruction into one seamless act. Fast forward to the alchemists of medieval Europe, and the Ouroboros takes on even richer meaning. To them, it wasn't just a snake, it was the philosopher's stone in motion, a living metaphor for transformation. The act of eating its own tail symbolized the alchemical process, breaking down matter to purify it over and over until perfection was achieved. Infinity wasn't just a cycle, it was a ladder, each turn of the serpent's body a step closer to enlightenment. Then there's Carl Jung, who saw the Ouroboros as a mirror to the human psyche. In his studies, the serpent became a symbol of the self, the part of us that's both creator and destroyer, constantly reshaping our identity. The loop wasn't just eternal, it was introspective, a reminder that growth often means confronting what we've outgrown. Even the Gnostics, those early mystics, twisted the Ouroboros into something radical. To them, the serpent wasn't just a circle, it was a rebellion. By devouring itself, it defied the rigid order of a creator god, embodying the idea that true wisdom comes from questioning, even consuming, one's own beliefs. So no, the Ouroboros isn't just a fancy recycling logo. It's a paradox, a symbol that's as much about breaking free as it is about returning. And that's the real magic of serpent myths. They refuse to sit still, just like the creatures they celebrate. Next, we'll untangle another thread in this vast tapestry, one that challenges everything you thought you knew about serpents and their role in the moral universe. Because when it comes to these ancient symbols, nothing is ever black and white. Now, let's shed some light on a myth that's been painted in overly dark strokes, the idea that serpents are universally symbols of evil. This blanket judgment slithers through many cultures, but the truth is far more colorful. Take the Chinese rainbow serpent, for example. Far from a villain, this radiant being is celebrated as a life-giver, its shimmering body carving rivers and watering the earth, nurturing entire ecosystems. It's a creator, not a destroyer, weaving the landscape itself into existence. Then there's Asclepius, the Greek god of healing, whose staff entwined with a serpent became the symbol of medicine we still recognize today. Here, the serpent isn't a tempter, it's a savior, its shedding skin representing renewal and its venom holding the power to cure. Even in the Bible's shadow, where the serpent often bears the brunt of blame, earlier Judaic traditions saw it as a trickster figure, a bringer of wisdom rather than pure wickedness. This myth of uniform evil crumbles when we look at serpents like the Aboriginal rainbow snake, a guardian of law and fertility, or the Hindu Anantashesha, who cradles the universe on his coils. These beings aren't just exceptions, they're proof that serpents embody duality, not dogma. They can be protectors, healers, even cosmic architects, challenging the lazy trope that reduces them to mere villains. So next time you hear about the evil serpent, remember, these creatures are as complex as the cultures that revere them. And speaking of complexity, our next myth will coil around another surprising twist, the idea that all serpent myths share a single origin. Spoiler, they don't. Now, let's unravel another fascinating twist in the Cosmic Serpent saga, this time taking a closer look at Quetzalcoatl. Many picture this Aztec deity as the iconic feathered serpent, his vibrant plumage symbolizing the sky and divinity. But here's the surprise, early depictions of Quetzalcoatl strip away the feathers entirely, revealing a more primal, serpentine force. In his oldest forms, Quetzalcoatl wasn't just a hybrid of bird and snake. He was a raw, powerful serpent embodying wind and water. Imagine a massive, coiled being whose very breath stirred hurricanes and whose movements carved rivers through the land. This version of Quetzalcoatl, known as Ehecatl, was worshipped as a god of storms, his serpentine body twisting through the air like a tempest-given form. The feathers came later, layered onto his myth as Aztec culture evolved. They didn't erase his serpent nature but intertwined with it, creating the duality we recognize today. Yet even then, his watery, wind-driven origins lingered. Temples dedicated to Ehecatl Quetzalcoatl were built circular to mimic a serpent's coils, and priests blew conch shells to summon his breath, the same winds that once shaped the world. So why does the feathered image dominate? Partly because it's striking, but also because later Aztec rulers politicized Quetzalcoatl's symbolism, aligning him with royalty and the heavens. But peel back those layers and you'll find the original Quetzalcoatl, a serpent who didn't need feathers to command the elements. This myth reminds us that even the most familiar symbols have hidden depth. And speaking of hidden stories, our next myth dives into the Norse world, where another serpent defies expectations, Jormungandr, the so-called mindless destroyer. But is that the whole truth? Stay tuned. Now, let's shift our gaze to the icy realms of Norse mythology, where the colossal serpent Jormungandr coils around the world, its tail clamped in its jaws. Popular tales often paint this beast as a mindless force of destruction, a villain waiting to unleash chaos during Ragnarok. But the truth is far more intriguing. Jormungandr isn't just an agent of doom. In the Eddic poems, this serpent plays a vital role in maintaining the delicate balance of the cosmos through its eternal rivalry with Thor. Think of their clashes not as mere battles, but as a cosmic dance. Every time Thor fishes for Jormungandr with his enchanted hook, or the serpent unleashes its venom into the skies, their struggle keeps the boundaries between order and chaos in check. Without this tension, the Norse universe would tip into imbalance. Too much order stifles change, while unchecked chaos brings ruin. Jormungandr's very presence, looming beneath the waves, is a reminder that destruction and renewal are two sides of the same coin. Even the prophecy of Ragnarok, where Thor and Jormungandr finally kill each other, isn't just about annihilation. Their mutual demise clears the way for a new world to rise from the ashes. Far from being a simple monster, Jormungandr is a necessary counterweight, a force that ensures the cycle of existence continues. So why has the serpent been reduced to a one-dimensional destroyer? Later interpretations, especially those influenced by Christian morality, often flattened Norse myths into good versus evil narratives. But the original sources reveal a deeper wisdom. Chaos isn't the enemy. It's the raw material from which order is forged. And speaking of raw materials, our next myth takes us to the heart of gender in serpent lore, where deities like Wadjet and the Maori's Taniwha shatter expectations. Because the cosmic serpent was never just a male symbol, but that's a story for another moment. Now, let's unravel a myth that's coiled itself deep into our collective imagination, the idea that cosmic serpents are always male. This assumption crumbles when we meet Wadjet, the fierce Egyptian serpent goddess who wasn't just a protector but a sovereign force. Crowned with the uraeus, her coiled form symbolized royal power and divine authority, proving that serpents could wear the mantle of leadership as goddesses, not just gods. Crossing oceans to Maori lore, we encounter Taniwha, serpentine beings who defy simple gender labels. Some are guardians of rivers and tribes, often described as female or shape-shifting between forms. These beings weren't just mythical creatures, they were ancestors, teachers, and sometimes tricksters, embodying fluidity long before modern discussions of gender. Why does this matter? Because reducing cosmic serpents to male figures reflects a broader bias, one where creation and chaos are seen as masculine domains. But cultures worldwide tell a different story. In Dahomey mythology, the rainbow serpent Wido is both creator and companion to the androgynous deity Maulisa, weaving the world into existence without fitting neatly into binary roles. Even in traditions where male serpents dominate, like the Hindu Anantashesha, female counterparts like Manasa, the serpent goddess of healing, claim their space. Her myths show venom as both weapon and medicine, a duality that challenges the trope of serpents as purely destructive. The lesson here: serpents, like creation itself, resist simple categories. They're not just phallic symbols or patriarchal icons, they're mirrors of the cultures that imagined them, revealing how deeply gender shapes our myths. And speaking of shaping myths, our next serpent defies another stubborn assumption, that its role in Eden's story was always evil. But that's a tale tangled in centuries of interpretation. Now, let's slither into one of the most misunderstood serpent stories of all time, the tale of Eden. Most of us grew up hearing the serpent as the ultimate villain, the deceiver who doomed humanity. But here's the twist: that interpretation wasn't always set in stone. In fact, the Hebrew Bible's original text paints the serpent in shades of gray, not pure black. It's Augustine, centuries later, who sharpened the serpent's fangs into symbols of absolute evil. Digging into early Judaic traditions, the serpent wasn't just a tempter. It was a trickster, a bringer of gnosis or hidden knowledge. Some ancient Jewish texts even frame the serpent's act as a necessary disruption, pushing Adam and Eve toward self-awareness. Think of it less like a fall and more like a forced awakening. the fruit not just forbidden, but a threshold to understanding duality, good and evil, mortality and choice. Augustine's shadow looms large here. His 4th century writings, infused with Christian theology, recast the serpent as Satan's mouthpiece, weaving a narrative of original sin that stuck. But peel back those layers and you'll find older, messier truths. In Kabbalistic thought, for instance, the serpent's role intertwines with divine sparks and cosmic repair, far removed from simple villainy. What's fascinating is how this split echoes across cultures. Compare Eden's serpent to the Gnostic serpent of light, who liberates humans from ignorance, or to West African trickster serpents who blur moral lines. The takeaway, the serpent's evil in Eden isn't universal, it's a story reshaped by time, theology, and the teller's lens. And speaking of lenses, our next myth tackles another cultural filter, the idea that all serpent myths spring from a single source. But as we'll see, the truth is far more tangled now. Let's untangle a myth that's coiled itself around many discussions, the idea that all serpent myths spring from a single, ancient source. It's tempting to imagine a primordial story that slithered across continents, morphing into different forms. But the reality, these myths are as diverse as the cultures that birthed them, each one shaped by its own landscape, history, and worldview. Take the Australian Aboriginal rainbow serpent, for example. Here, the serpent isn't just a creator, it's the land itself, carving rivers and shaping valleys as it moves through the dreamtime. Contrast that with the Norse Jormungandr, a serpent born of chaos, destined to battle Thor at the world's end. One is a life-giving force tied to the earth, the other is an agent of cosmic destruction. No shared origin here, just two entirely distinct visions of serpent power. Then there's the Mesoamerican Quetzalcoatl, a feathered serpent embodying wind and wisdom, worlds apart from the Hindu Anantashesha, who floats in space supporting the universe on his coils. Even their roles in creation differ wildly. Quetzalcoatl molds humanity from bone and maize, while Ananta serves as the bed for the god Vishnu, a passive yet essential presence. So why do we cling to the monomyth idea? Partly because it's satisfying, a neat, unified theory of human storytelling, but serpent myths resist simplicity. They emerge independently, reflecting local fears, values, and natural wonders. The Egyptian Apep, representing darkness, has nothing in common with the Chinese dragon, a symbol of imperial power and reign. Even their physical forms diverge. Apep is a monstrous, limbless serpent, while Chinese dragons boast claws, scales, and flight. This isn't to say there's no overlap. Serpents universally fascinate us, perhaps because they're both earthbound and otherworldly. But their stories, they're as unique as the people who tell them, and that's what makes them so compelling. Next up, we'll dive into another assumption, that cosmic serpents always dwell in water. But as you'll see, their habitats are as varied as their myths. Here's the next section of the script, seamlessly continuing from the previous content. Now, let's wade into another myth that's soaked into popular imagination, the idea that cosmic serpents are always tied to water. While many of these beings do emerge from rivers, oceans, or rain, some defy the stereotype entirely, slithering into realms far beyond the waves. Take the Hindu Anantashesha, for instance. This thousand-headed serpent doesn't lounge in a watery abyss, it floats in the void of space, its massive coils serving as a divine couch for the god Vishnu. Here, the serpent isn't a creature of the deep but a cosmic foundation, holding up the universe itself. No lakes, no storms, just infinite darkness and starlight. Then there's the Dahomey people's Ado-H-Wedo, a serpent so colossal it wraps around the Earth's core. According to Faun mythology, this serpent's movements even cause earthquakes. But here's the twist, Ado-H-Wedo isn't swimming. It's buried in the planet's molten heart, a fiery counterpart to the watery serpents of other myths. Even the Aztec Xochitl, the turquoise serpent, breaks the mold. It's not just a water dweller, it's a creature of fire and time, often depicted as a weapon wielded by the sun god Huitzilopochtli. Flames lick its body, and its very name ties it to the heat of the dry season. So why do we assume all cosmic serpents are aquatic? Probably because water is such a universal symbol of chaos and creation. But as these myths show, serpents adapt to their environments, whether it's the cold void of space, the Earth's burning core, or the scorching sun. Their habitats are as varied as their stories, proving once again that these beings refuse to be pinned down. Next, we'll confront another assumption, that serpents symbolize only chaos or order. But as you'll see, their roles are far more nuanced. Now, let's untangle another myth that's coiled around our understanding of cosmic serpents, the idea that they represent only chaos or order with no room for nuance. The truth is far more fascinating, as these beings often embody both forces at once, weaving them into a single, complex role. Consider the Mayan Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent who brings order, but not without sacrifice. This deity doesn't just enforce harmony, it demands offerings, rituals, and even blood to maintain balance. Quetzalcoatl's order isn't gentle or passive. It's dynamic, built on the tension between giving and taking, life and death. Here, the serpent isn't a simple symbol of structure, but a reminder that order often comes at a price. Then there's the Fawn people's Dan, a serpent who thrives in chaos, yet not as a mindless destroyer. In Dahomey mythology, Dan's chaotic movements are what shape the world, carving rivers and valleys as it writhes. Chaos isn't just destruction here, it's the raw material of creation. Without Dan's restless energy, the land would lie flat and lifeless. This serpent doesn't fit neatly into good or evil. It's a force of transformation, blurring the line between disorder and renewal. Even the Aztec Quetzalcoatl we met earlier defies binary thinking. As a serpent of fire and time, it brings both destruction and renewal, burning away the old to make space for the new. Its flames aren't purely destructive, they're cyclical, like the sun's endless rise and fall. So why do we insist on labeling serpents as purely chaotic or orderly? Maybe because humans crave simplicity, but myths remind us that creation is messy, and cosmic serpents reflect that complexity. They're not one thing or the other, they're bridges between opposites, holding the tension of duality in their coils. Next, we'll confront another assumption, that serpents are invincible. But as you'll see, even these mighty beings have their vulnerabilities. But here's something that might surprise you: cosmic serpents aren't always the untouchable, eternal beings we imagine. Take the Babylonian Tiamat, the primordial serpent of chaos. She's often portrayed as this unstoppable force, a goddess so vast her body forms the heavens and earth. Yet in the Enuma Elish, the epic of creation, she's slain by Marduk, who splits her body in two to shape the world. Her death isn't an end, though, it's a transformation. The myth flips the script, showing how even the mightiest serpents can fall, yet their power lingers in the fabric of existence. Then there's the Norse Jormungandr, the world-encircling serpent destined to die in battle with Thor during Ragnarok. But here's the twist: its death isn't permanent. Norse mythology hints at cycles, a world reborn after destruction. Jormungandr's fate isn't about weakness, it's about balance. Even a serpent that spans the earth must play its part in the cosmic reset. And let's not forget the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the fire serpent tied to the sun's movement. Every sunset is a kind of death, a moment when the serpent's flames dim only to reignite at dawn. This isn't immortality in the traditional sense, it's a rhythm of endings and rebirths, proving that serpents don't cheat death, they dance with it. So why do we assume these beings are invincible? Maybe because their scale feels infinite, their power otherworldly. But myths keep reminding us even the cosmic serpent has limits. Their stories aren't about invulnerability, they're about change, about how destruction can seed new beginnings, and that's far more interesting than simple immortality. Now let's peel back another layer, because not all serpent worship was hidden in the shadows. Some cults thrived in the heart of ancient civilizations. Here's the thing: serpent worship wasn't some fringe underground movement. In fact, some of the most powerful civilizations in history openly revered these creatures at the very center of their spiritual lives. Take the Minoans of ancient Crete, for example. Their famous snake goddess figurines, arms outstretched with serpents coiled around them, weren't hidden away in secret shrines. These were sacred icons found in palace sanctuaries and household altars alike. The Minoans saw serpents as symbols of renewal and protection, tied to the earth's fertility and the cycles of life. This wasn't a cult on the margins, it was mainstream spirituality. Then there's the Naga tradition in Southeast Asia, where serpent deities weren't just worshipped but woven into the fabric of daily life. From Cambodia to Thailand, Naga spirits were believed to guard temples, control rains, and even shape the land itself. The grand corridors of Angkor Wat are lined with their stone likenesses, and to this day, festivals like Laos's Naga fireballs draw crowds who believe these serpents still bless the rivers. This wasn't a niche belief, it was, and in some places still is, a cornerstone of culture. Even in ancient Greece, the healing god Asclepius carried a staff entwined with a serpent, a symbol so trusted it became the emblem of medicine itself. His temples, called Asclepians, were bustling centers of pilgrimage where the sick sought the serpent's wisdom. Far from being shadowy or taboo, these practices were celebrated, state-sanctioned, and utterly central to society. So why do we assume serpent cults were always sidelined? Maybe because later monotheistic traditions painted them as heretical. But history tells a different story, one where serpents weren't just worshipped in hidden corners but exalted in the heart of empires. And that changes everything. Now, let's turn to another myth, because not all cosmic serpents fit the same mold. Some defy expectations in ways that'll make you rethink their role entirely. Now, let's shatter another assumption, that cosmic serpents just sat back and let creation happen around them. Some myths paint these beings as passive, almost like bystanders in their own stories. Take Hindu tradition, where the serpent Anantashesha floats in the cosmic ocean, cradling the god Vishnu as he dreams the universe into existence. Here, the serpent is a steady foundation, a silent supporter rather than an active shaper. It's a beautiful image, but it's only half the story, because across the world, other serpents weren't waiting for creation, they were making it happen. In Yoruba mythology, the serpent-age Shaluga didn't just watch the land form, it carved rivers and valleys by slithering across the earth, its body shaping the terrain with every movement. This wasn't a quiet, egg-laying process, it was dynamic, physical, and full of intention. The land didn't just appear, it was sculpted by the serpent's very presence. Even in Hindu lore, there's a twist. While Anantashesha seems passive, its coils symbolize the endless cycles of time, subtly driving the universe forward. Compare that to the Aztec Cipactli, a monstrous serpent whose thrashing body was torn apart to form the earth and sky, a violent, hands-on act of creation. So why does this matter? Because it forces us to ask, is the cosmic serpent a gentle cradle or a relentless architect? The answer isn't one or the other, it's both. And that's the real magic of these myths. They refuse to be boxed in. Just when you think you've figured them out, they twist into something entirely new. Speaking of twists, our next myth dives into an even bigger contradiction, because not all serpents fit neatly into categories of good or evil. But here's where things get even more fascinating, because cosmic serpents aren't just forces of creation or destruction. They're layered, morally complex beings that defy simple labels. Take the Cherokee's Actina, a serpent so powerful it could kill with a single glance, yet it was also a guardian of sacred knowledge and healing crystals. This wasn't a mindless monster, it was a paradox, both protector and peril, demanding respect rather than fear. Then there's the Aztec Cipactli, a creature we've already met as the raw material of creation. But dig deeper and you'll find its dual nature, part serpent, part crocodile, embodying chaos and order in one body. the Aztecs didn't see it as purely evil or good. Instead, its dismemberment by the gods was necessary to build the world, a violent act that birthed harmony. Even in Greek mythology, the serpent isn't a one-note villain. Asclepius, the god of medicine, wielded a serpent-entwined staff, symbolizing healing and renewal. Yet his power to resurrect the dead so unnerved Hades that Zeus struck him down. Here, the serpent's gift of life tipped the cosmic balance, showing how even benevolence can disrupt the natural order. So why does this moral gray area matter? Because it forces us to rethink how we label these beings. The cosmic serpent isn't just a hero or villain, it's a mirror, reflecting the messy, contradictory nature of existence itself. And that's a truth far more compelling than any black and white myth. Now, let's unravel another layer, because some serpents didn't just shape the world. They became it. Here's where the waters get murky, because while serpents and floods often intertwine in mythology, not every deluge story features a cosmic snake. Take the biblical tale of Noah's Ark, for example. This flood, sent to cleanse the earth of humanity's corruption, stars no serpentine antagonist. Instead, it's divine wrath and a righteous man's obedience that drive the narrative. But contrast that with the Babylonian epic of Gilgamesh, where the god E unleashes a flood to punish humanity, and the serpentine Tiamat, though not directly causing the deluge, embodies the chaotic waters that once covered the world. Or consider Hindu mythology, where the serpent Vritra hoards all the earth's waters, causing drought until the god Indra slays him, releasing a catastrophic flood. So why do serpents slither into so many flood myths? It's often about symbolism. Water is primal, unpredictable, much like the serpent itself. In cultures where serpents represent chaos or untamed nature, it's natural to link them to floods, those ultimate forces of destruction and renewal. The Leviathan in Canaanite lore isn't just a monster, it's the swirling chaos of the sea, a reminder of how fragile order can be. Yet the exceptions matter just as much. They remind us that flood myths serve different purposes, sometimes moral lessons, other times explanations for geological events. The absence of a serpent can highlight themes of human responsibility or divine justice, while its presence often underscores nature's raw, uncontrollable power. Now let's shed another layer, because some serpents didn't just bring floods, they carried secrets. Here's a fresh layer to unravel. When a serpent sheds its skin, it's not always about rebirth. Sure, that's the classic interpretation, cycles of renewal, life emerging from decay. But across cultures, this act carries far more nuanced meanings. Take the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the fiery serpent. Its shedding wasn't just a biological process, it symbolized the relentless passage of time. Each discarded skin a marker of epochs shifting, empires rising and falling. This serpent wasn't just renewing itself, it was etching history into its scales. Then there's the Greek Lamia, a serpentine shapeshifter whose shedding embodied deceit. In her myths, shedding skin wasn't transformation, it was camouflage, a way to lure the unwary. Her discarded layers weren't symbols of rebirth but traps, remnants of identities she'd worn and abandoned. Here, shedding wasn't sacred, it was sinister. But perhaps the most striking twist comes from the Mexican Quetzalcoatl, a serpent wielded as a weapon. For the Aztecs, its shedding mirrored political upheaval. The old order sloughed off violently, like a skin torn away by force. This serpent wasn't a passive symbol of renewal. It was a revolutionary, its shedding tied to war, conquest, and the fiery rebirth of empires. So why does this matter? Because it challenges the tidy idea that serpent symbolism is universal. Shedding can mean reinvention, or it can mean deception, revolution, even the crushing weight of time. The serpent's skin isn't just a blank slate, it's a canvas for humanity's deepest fears and ambitions. And that's a thread we'll keep pulling, because next we're untangling the myth of the solitary serpent. Now let's shatter another myth, the idea that cosmic serpents always slither through myths alone. Far from it. Some of the most fascinating serpent stories feature pairs, partners, or even entire symbiotic relationships that redefine their roles. Take the Egyptian Mehen, a coiled serpent who didn't just exist in isolation. By day, Mehen wrapped himself around Ra's solar barge, shielding the sun god from the chaos of Apopes, the serpent of destruction. Here, the serpent isn't a lone force, it's a guardian, a necessary counterpart in the delicate balance of order and chaos. Then there's the caduceus, the iconic staff entwined with two serpents, often mistaken for a medical symbol. In Greek mythology, these serpents represent negotiation and duality, their intertwined bodies symbolizing harmony between opposites. And speaking of twinning, look no further than the double helix of DNA, its serpentine structure echoing ancient symbols of life's interconnectedness. This isn't just coincidence, it's a testament to how deeply paired serpents are woven into humanity's understanding of balance and unity. But the most striking example might be the Hindu Nagas and Garuda. Though their rivals Garuda, the eagle, eternally at odds with the serpentine Nagas, their conflict creates a cosmic equilibrium. Without one, the other loses meaning. So next time you picture a cosmic serpent, don't imagine it in isolation. Whether as protectors, partners, or even adversaries, these beings thrive in relationship, and that's a thread we'll keep unraveling. Because up next, we're diving into how serpent myths didn't just stay ancient, they slithered straight into modern pop culture. Here's how serpent myths didn't just fade into history, they coiled their way into the stories we love today. Think about Marvel's Jormungandr, the Midgard serpent, a modern take on the Norse world encircling beast. This isn't just a comic book villain, it's a direct descendant of ancient Eddic poetry, where Thor and the serpent's rivalry held the cosmos in balance. Marvel didn't invent this tension, they repackaged a myth thousands of years old, proving these symbols still grip our imagination. Then there's the Oran from the never-ending story, a twin serpent amulet that grants wishes. Sound familiar? It's a nod to the Ouroboros, the tail-eating serpent of infinity, but with a childlike wonder that makes ancient alchemy feel fresh. Even Harry Potter's Slytherin house, with its serpent emblem, plays on the duality of serpent wisdom and cunning, echoing everything from Eden's trickster to Asclepius's healing coils. But it's not just fantasy. Look at sci-fi. Star Trek's serpentine alien species, like the Kardashians, embody the same slippery intelligence ancient cultures feared or revered. And let's not forget video games. God of War's portrayal of Jormungandr isn't just epic spectacle. It's mythic literacy in action, teaching players about Norse lore through gameplay. So why do these ancient serpent motifs keep resurfacing? Because they're timeless. Whether as symbols of chaos, rebirth, or hidden knowledge, serpents adapt to our newest stories while keeping their oldest magic intact. And speaking of adaptation, next up, we'll tackle a myth that claims serpent venom only brings death. But what if it's also the key to life? Stay tuned. Now, let's unravel a myth that paints serpent venom as purely deadly, because the truth is far more fascinating. While venom can indeed bring death, it's also a paradoxical symbol of life and healing across cultures. Take Shiva, the Hindu god often depicted with serpents coiled around his neck. These serpents aren't just ornaments, they're said to drip venom that grants immortality, turning destruction into a force of renewal. It's a reminder that even the most feared substances can hold transformative power. Then there's Kundalini Yoga, where the serpent isn't a threat but a source of energy. The coiled Kundalini serpent at the base of the spine, when awakened, is believed to rise and unleash healing vitality through the body. This isn't about poison, it's about tapping into inner strength, where venom becomes a metaphor for spiritual awakening. Even ancient Greek mythology plays with this duality. Asclepius, the god of medicine, wielded a staff entwined with a serpent, symbolizing how venom could both kill and cure. So why does this myth persist? Because it's easier to fear the serpent's sting than to embrace its complexity. From Ayurveda's use of venom in remedies to the Aboriginal rainbow serpent's life-giving waters, cultures worldwide have seen serpents as both destroyers and healers. Next time you hear about a serpent's venom, remember, it's not just about the end of life, but sometimes the beginning of something greater. And speaking of beginnings, our next myth challenges another assumption, that cosmic serpents are always gigantic. But what if some defy size altogether? That's up next. Now, let's shatter another assumption that cosmic serpents must be colossal to be powerful. Size doesn't always equal significance, and mythology is full of serpents that prove it. Take the Japanese Nyoana, a serpent spirit often appearing as a woman with a snake's tail. She's no towering beast, but her ability to manipulate water and her eerie, hypnotic presence make her a force to reckon with. Then there's the Celtic Melusine, a shape-shifting serpent who could alternate between human and serpentine forms, weaving her influence through European folklore without needing to dwarf mountains. These smaller serpents pack just as much symbolic weight as their gigantic counterparts. The Nyoana, for instance, isn't just a ghost story. She's a cautionary figure, embodying the dangers of deception and the unpredictable power of nature. Meanwhile, Melusine's duality, part human, part serpent, challenges the idea that serpents are purely otherworldly. She's a bridge between realms, showing that transformation, not sheer size, defines her mythic role. Even in African traditions, the Ethiopian Zemiok is a serpent guardian no larger than a man's arm, yet revered for protecting sacred spaces. And let's not forget the Hopi snake clan's tiny but vital serpent messengers, believed to carry prayers to the underworld. These myths remind us that power isn't measured in scale. Whether towering or tiny, cosmic serpents shape worlds in ways that defy expectations. So why does the giant serpent trope dominate? Perhaps because grandeur is easier to imagine, but mythology thrives on subverting the obvious. Next time you picture a cosmic serpent, remember, it might be whispering from the shadows, not shaking the earth. And speaking of whispers, our next myth explores a serpent trait often overlooked: their voices. Because silence isn't always part of the story. Now, let's unravel another layer of serpent mythology, the idea that creation always happens in a single dramatic moment. While some traditions, like the Abrahamic stories, describe the universe springing into being through divine speech, serpent myths often paint a very different picture. Take the Hopi spider woman and her serpent companion, for example. Their creation wasn't a snap of the fingers. Instead, they shaped the earth gradually, molding landscapes over time with patience and deliberate effort. This slow, deliberate process mirrors the serpent's own nature, coiling, slithering, and methodically transforming the world. Compare that to the Babylonian Tiamat, whose body was dismembered to form the heavens and earth. Even here, the act wasn't instantaneous. It was a violent, drawn-out struggle, a cosmic battle that stretched across mythic time. Or consider the Yoruba's age Shaluga, a serpent deity who didn't just summon land into existence but carved it out by moving through primordial waters, leaving trails that became rivers and valleys. These stories remind us that creation isn't always a sudden event. Sometimes it's a laborious dance, a collaboration between time and effort. Even in Hindu lore, Anantashesha doesn't simply blink the world into being. He floats in the cosmic ocean, supporting the universe on his endless coils, a never-ending act of sustenance, not a one-time miracle. This contrast challenges the myth of instant creation, showing how serpents embody the slow, organic rhythms of nature. They don't command, they weave. They don't declare, they shape. So why does this matter? Because it reframes how we see power. Creation isn't just about the ability to make something from nothing. It's about the patience to nurture it into existence. And that's a lesson as coiled and profound as the serpents themselves. Up next, we'll tackle another assumption, that serpents and dragons are just two names for the same mythic beast. But as we'll see, the truth has its own twists. Now, let's untangle a common misconception that serpents and dragons are just different names for the same mythical creature. At first glance, they might seem similar, but dig a little deeper and you'll find they play very different roles across cultures. Take Chinese mythology, for example. Dragons here are earthbound, symbols of imperial power and reign, often depicted with antlers, claws, and flowing manes. They're rulers of rivers and storms, deeply tied to human affairs. But celestial serpents, they're something else entirely. Think of the azure dragon of the east, a cosmic guardian of the heavens, more spirit than beast, weaving through the stars rather than the soil. Now flip the script to European heraldry. Dragons are armored, fire-breathing monsters, hoarding treasure or battling knights. Think of the Welsh red dragon or the beast St. George slays. These dragons are forces of chaos, challenges to be overcome, but serpents, they're subtler. The Ouroboros, for instance, isn't a villain. It's a philosopher's symbol, a loop of eternity. Even the Caduceus, with its twin serpents, represents healing and balance, not destruction. So why does this distinction matter? Because it changes how we read myths. A dragon's roar might signal a hero's trial, but a serpent's whisper often carries wisdom or a warning. They're not interchangeable, they're opposites in disguise. Up next, we'll soar even higher, exploring how cosmic serpents aren't just earthbound legends but celestial navigators, guiding cultures through the stars. But here's something that might surprise you. Cosmic serpents aren't just slithering through earthly myths. They're written in the stars themselves. Take Hydra, the largest constellation in the night sky, stretching like an endless serpent across the heavens. Ancient Greeks saw it as the multi-headed monster Hercules defeated, but its roots go deeper. For the Babylonians, Hydra was Tiamat's celestial echo, a remnant of the primordial chaos serpent. Then there's Draco, the dragon serpent coiled around the north celestial pole, guarding the axis of the world in Norse and Greek lore alike. These aren't just random star patterns, they're mythic blueprints, guiding cultures in ways we're only beginning to understand. Now shift your gaze to the Andes, where the Inca envisioned the Milky Way not as a river of light, but as Amaru, a cosmic serpent bridging the earthly and divine. Its winding path mirrored the serpent's movement, a celestial roadmap for rituals and agriculture. Even the Aboriginal rainbow serpent has its astral twin. Some clans link its journeys to the emu in the sky, a dark constellation formed by dust clouds in the Milky Way. These connections aren't coincidental. They reveal how serpents became humanity's first astronomers, their bodies mapping the rhythms of seasons, tides, and time. So next time you hear that cosmic serpents are just earthbound legends, remember, they've been overhead all along, whispering secrets to those who know how to look up. And speaking of secrets, our next myth dives into the serpent's most misunderstood trait, its supposed immortality. But is that really the case? Stay tuned. Now let's unravel a myth that paints all cosmic serpents with the same divine brush. While many serpents in mythology hold godlike status, not all of them bask in celestial glory. Take Fafnir from Norse legends, a dwarf turned into a monstrous serpent by his own greed. Far from being a deity, Fafnir was a cursed being, hoarding treasure and spewing poison, a cautionary tale about the corrupting power of desire. Then there's the Ethiopian serpent King Awe, a fearsome ruler who demanded human sacrifices. Unlike divine serpents who create or protect, Awe was a tyrant, a mortal terror eventually slain by a human hero. These stories remind us that serpents in myth aren't always untouchable gods. Some are flawed, mortal, even pitiable creatures shaped by curses, choices, or the whims of fate. And this isn't just limited to a few cultures. In Japanese folklore, the Orochi serpent was a rampaging beast, not a divine force, until it was subdued by the storm god Susanoo. Even in Mesoamerica, the Cipactli serpent, though part of creation myths, was more of a chaotic primeval monster than a worshipped god. The lesson here: serpents in mythology wear many masks, from the sacred to the sinister, the eternal to the ephemeral. So the next time someone claims all serpent myths are about divinity, point them to Fafnir's gold-streaked scales or Awi's crumbling kingdom. Because in the grand tapestry of serpent lore, mortality has its fangs too. And speaking of fangs, our next myth tackles a surprising twist: the cosmic serpent's hypnotic gaze. But is it really as universal as we think? That's coming up. Now, let's slither into a myth that's all about perception literally. The idea that every cosmic serpent hypnotizes its prey with a piercing gaze is far from universal. In fact, cultures around the world have imagined serpents seeing and enchanting in wildly different ways. Take Mesoamerican serpents, for example. These creatures didn't rely on eyes to lock you in a trance. They sensed the world through heat pits, tracking the warmth of living beings like ancient infrared scanners. This wasn't about a hypnotic stare, but an almost scientific precision, a reminder of how deeply these myths intertwined with observations of real-world reptiles. Then there's the Hindu Nagas, serpentine beings who wielded a very different kind of allure. Instead of mesmerizing with their eyes, Nagas were said to hypnotize through the glittering jewels embedded in their hoods. These gems weren't just for show, they symbolized wisdom, wealth, and a supernatural pull, reflecting the Naga's dual role as both protectors and tempters. It's a far cry from the Western trope of the snake's unblinking, sinister gaze. Even in African folklore, the serpent's power often lay in its voice or movement, not its eyes. The Dahomey people's Ado Hwido, for instance, shaped the world with its coils. Its presence felt more than seen. So the next time you picture a serpent freezing its prey with a stare, remember, mythology's snakes don't always play by the same rules. Some see through heat, some shimmer with jewels, and others sway to an entirely different rhythm. And just as we've unraveled the myth of the universal gaze, our next serpentine surprise awaits, where we'll explore whether these cosmic beings are always bound to the earth or if some take to the skies. Stay tuned. Now, let's take flight into a myth that defies gravity itself: the idea that cosmic serpents are forever chained to the earth. While many of these primordial beings coil around mountains or slither through rivers, others soar through the skies or carve paths beneath the ground, proving their dominion spans far beyond the soil. Take Quetzalcoatl, the famed feathered serpent of Mesoamerica. In his form as Ehecatl, he wasn't just a creature of the earth, but a force of the wind itself. Imagine a serpent not bound by scales and soil, but woven into the very storms, his breath shaping hurricanes and whispering breezes. The Aztecs depicted Ehecatl with a beak-like mask, symbolizing his mastery over the invisible currents of the air. Here, the serpent isn't grounded, it's the sky's architect. Then there's the Aboriginal rainbow serpent, a being as much at home in the earth's hidden tunnels as in the water. This serpent didn't just swim or crawl, it carved dreamtime pathways beneath the surface, shaping landscapes from below. Its subterranean journeys weren't just physical, they were spiritual, connecting the visible world to the unseen realms of creation. Even in Hindu cosmology, Anantashesha, the endless serpent who supports the universe, floats weightless in the cosmic ocean. His coils cradle planets and gods alike, a reminder that serpents can be as boundless as space itself. So the next time you picture a cosmic serpent, remember, some slither, some swim, and some ride the winds. Their power isn't confined to the ground, it's as vast as the myths that dare to imagine them. And just as we've unraveled the myth of the earthbound serpent, our next twist in the tale awaits, where we'll see how these ancient stories evolve, bending time itself. Stay curious. Now, let's unravel a myth that clings to the past: the idea that serpent creation stories are frozen in time, unchanging relics of ancient imagination. The truth: these myths are alive, shifting and adapting like the serpents themselves, woven into new cultures and beliefs across centuries. Take the Babylonian Labu, a primordial serpent of chaos. Early texts depict it as a monstrous force slain by a storm god. But over time, Labu's story didn't just fade, it transformed, merging into the legend of Tiamat, the dragon-like mother of gods. Here, the serpent's role expanded from a mere villain to a cosmic creator, her body becoming the raw material of the universe. This wasn't a static tale, it was a myth reborn. Then there's Leviathan, the biblical sea serpent. In ancient Canaanite lore, it was Lotan, a seven-headed beast slain by the god Baal. But when Hebrew scribes adopted the story, Leviathan became more than a monster. It symbolized chaos awaiting divine judgment. Later, Christian writers reinterpreted it again, casting Leviathan as a metaphor for sin or even Satan. With each retelling, the serpent's meaning deepened, proving myths evolve with the people who tell them. Even the Norse Jormungandr, the world-encircling serpent, has roots that twist further back. Some scholars trace its lineage to older Germanic serpent myths, where it may have been a lesser spirit before rising to cosmic prominence in Viking sagas. Stories don't just endure, they grow. So the next time you hear a serpent myth, ask how many versions lie beneath it. These tales aren't carved in stone, they're written in water flowing through time. And as we've seen, their journey is far from over. Now, let's turn to another layer of mystery where the serpent's wisdom isn't always a gift. Stay with us. But here's where the serpent's wisdom takes a darker turn. Not all knowledge it offers is a gift. Sometimes what the serpent reveals can be twisted, dangerous, or even forbidden. Take the Greek Python, the great serpent slain by Apollo at Delphi. Before Apollo claimed the oracle, Python was said to whisper prophecies, but not all were truth. Some legends suggest its words were deliberately misleading, luring seekers into ruin. This wasn't wisdom to uplift, but a test of discernment, a reminder that not all guidance, even from the divine, is pure. Then there's the Gnostic serpent, a figure shrouded in controversy. In texts like the Apocryphon of John, the serpent in Eden isn't a villain but a rebel, offering Adam and Eve the forbidden gnosis knowledge of their divine spark. To some, this was liberation, to others, heresy. The serpent's wisdom here wasn't just guarded, it was dangerous, upending the order of the heavens. The very act of sharing it defied the Creator God, making the serpent both enlightener and outlaw. Even in Hindu lore, the Nagas, serpentine beings of immense wisdom, aren't always benevolent. Their knowledge can be hoarded, used to curse as easily as to bless. The Mahabharata tells of the Naga king Takshaka, whose vengeance brought death with a single bite. Wisdom in these tales isn't neutral, it's a weapon, a tool, or a trap, depending on who wields it. So while serpents are often keepers of secrets, their truths come with edges. Whether it's Python's riddles, the Gnostic serpent's rebellion, or the Naga's double-edged gifts, their wisdom challenges us to ask, is knowledge always good? Or does its power lie in how and why it's shared? Now, let's confront another twist in the serpent's tale, where its enemies aren't always who we expect. Stay with us, but here's something that might surprise you: cosmic serpents aren't always the ones running scared. In fact, many myths flip the script, showing these primordial beings as the ones in control, bending rivals to their will or even forging unlikely alliances. Take the eternal feud between the Hindu Garuda and the Nagas. Garuda, the mighty eagle-like creature, is destined to hunt serpents, yet the Nagas aren't helpless victims. They strike back with venomous curses, turning their enemies' strength against him. In one tale, Garuda's mother is enslaved by the Nagas, forcing him to serve them until he secures the nectar of immortality. Even then, the serpents outsmart him, licking the nectar-soaked grass and splitting their tongues forever. This isn't fear, it's a battle of wits where neither side truly surrenders. Now, shift the scene to Japan's Ryujin, the dragon serpent who rules the ocean depths. His palace isn't a lonely fortress but a thriving court where sea creatures, fish, turtles, even jellyfish live under his command. Here, the serpent isn't a tyrant but a sovereign, weaving harmony between species. When the jellyfish loses its bones for disobeying Ryujin, it's not just punishment, it's a lesson in balance. The serpent's power isn't about domination but order, proving that even the mightiest beings can choose coexistence over conflict. So whether it's the Nagas holding their own against Garuda or Ryujin presiding over his aquatic realm, these myths shatter the idea that serpents cower before others. Sometimes they fight, sometimes they rule, and sometimes they share the world. Up next, we'll unravel how serpents defy another stereotype, the colors they wear. Stay tuned. Now let's paint a different picture of cosmic serpents, one where color isn't just decoration but a language of its own. Far from being monochromatic, these beings wear their symbolism in vivid hues, each shade whispering secrets about their power and purpose. Take the Egyptian Apophis, a serpent drenched in deep blue, embodying the chaos of the primordial waters it slithers through. That blue isn't random, it's a warning, a visual echo of the untamed forces it represents. Then there's the Chinese Jiaolong, a serpentine dragon cloaked in lush green, winding through rivers and rice paddies. Here, green isn't just the color of scales, it's the pulse of fertility, a promise of growth woven into every coil. And how could we forget the Aboriginal rainbow serpent, its body a living spectrum? Its iridescence isn't mere beauty, it's a bridge between earth and sky, painting creation itself with every movement. So the next time you imagine a cosmic serpent, don't default to plain scales. Whether it's the menacing blue of chaos, the life-giving green of abundance, or the rainbow's cosmic brushstroke, these colors are anything but accidental. They're myths in pigment, stories waiting to be read. Up next, we'll confront a slippery assumption that all serpents shed their skin. Stay tuned. But here's a twist, not all cosmic serpents follow the same script when it comes to renewal. While shedding skin is a powerful symbol of rebirth, some serpents break the mold entirely. Take Quetzalcoatl, the famed feathered serpent of Mesoamerica. This deity doesn't rely on peeling scales to signify transformation. His very feathers, shimmering in the sunlight, represent the cyclical dance of wind and rain, a different kind of renewal woven into the fabric of nature. Then there's the Persian Ajai-Dahaka, a serpent with not just scales but thick, woolly fur, a creature more akin to a storm-given form. Its rebirth isn't marked by shedding but by the relentless churn of chaos and order it embodies. These exceptions remind us that renewal isn't a one-size-fits-all myth. For every serpent that sheds its skin, there's another that reinvents the metaphor, feathers catching the wind, fur bristling with primal energy. The lesson: cosmic serpents don't just defy gravity or time, they defy expectations, rewriting the rules of transformation with every coil and crest. Up next, we'll unravel another assumption, that these primordial beings are always silent. Stay with us. Now let's shatter another myth, that cosmic serpents are silent. Far from it. These primordial beings often speak, hiss, or even shape the world with sound. Take the serpent in the Garden of Eden, one of the most famous talking serpents in mythology. It didn't just slither, it debated, tempted, and outsmarted Eve with words, weaving deception with every syllable. Then there's Fafnir from Norse legends, a dwarf-turned-dragon who didn't just guard his gold, he taunted his enemies with riddles and curses, proving that serpents can be as cunning with their tongues as they are with their coils. But speech isn't the only sound in their arsenal. The Aztec wind serpent Quetzalcoatl didn't need words, his power came from the eerie whistle of the gales he commanded. Imagine the sound of a storm-given voice howling through temples and streets, a reminder that serpents don't just move through the world, they shape it with noise. From whispered temptations to the roar of the wind, these myths prove that silence is the last thing you'd expect from a cosmic serpent. Next up, we'll explore how these beings don't just create physical worlds, they forge time, language, and even dreams. Stay tuned. Now let's unravel a deeper layer of cosmic serpent myths, the idea that these beings only shape physical worlds. In reality, their influence stretches far beyond mountains and rivers, weaving into the very fabric of abstract realms. Take the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the fire serpent, who didn't just carve landscapes, it coiled itself around time itself. To the Aztecs, this serpent was the embodiment of solar years, its cyclical motion dictating the rise and fall of eras. Imagine time not as a straight line, but as a serpent's endless spiral, biting its own tail in an eternal dance. Then there's Jormungandr, the Aboriginal rainbow serpent, whose songlines didn't just map the land, they sang it into existence. These melodic pathways were more than geography, they were living narratives encoding laws, history, and kinship in every note. A serpent's hiss could carry the weight of an entire culture's wisdom, proving that creation isn't always about tangible things. Sometimes it's about the stories that bind us. And who could forget Ouroboros, the cosmic serpent of West African lore? While its coils shaped the Earth's foundations, its true power lay in the realm of dreams. It's said that Ouroboros' movement stirred visions in the minds of shamans, blurring the line between the waking world and the subconscious. Here, the serpent isn't just a sculptor of soil, it's a weaver of realities, crafting worlds from thought and imagination. So the next time you picture a cosmic serpent, remember, their creativity isn't confined to what we can touch. They mold time, spin language, and even dance through our dreams, proving that creation is as boundless as the myths themselves. Up next, we'll confront the myth that serpents and heroes are always enemies. Prepare for some surprising alliances. But here's a twist: what if the so-called hero isn't so heroic after all? Let's shatter the myth that cosmic serpents always face off against noble champions. Take Indra, the thunder-wielding god of Hindu lore, celebrated for slaying the serpent Vritra to free the waters of creation. Yet dig deeper, and you'll find ancient texts where Indra is accused of treachery, even cowardice, for attacking Vritra during a truce. Suddenly, the villainous serpent seems more like a wronged guardian of cosmic order. Then there's the Egyptian sun god Ra, who didn't battle the serpent Mehen, he rode it. Mehen coiled protectively around Ra's solar barge, shielding him from the chaos of the underworld during his nightly journey. Far from enemies, they were partners, proving that serpents could be allies to gods, not just obstacles. Even in Norse myth, Odin himself learned secret runes from the serpent's kin, the wise giant Mimir, blurring the line between adversary and teacher. And let's not forget the Aztec rivalry between Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca, a feud where both god and serpent traded roles as trickster and savior. One moment, Tezcatlipoca is the hero who overthrows the serpentine Quetzalcoatl. The next, he's the tyrant whose arrogance sparks calamity. These stories force us to ask, who's really the hero here? The truth is, cosmic serpent myths thrive on moral gray areas. Serpents aren't just monsters to be slain, they're mirrors reflecting the flaws of the gods and heroes who oppose them. Up next, we'll tackle the myth of serpent invincibility, where even the mightiest cosmic serpents meet their match. Now, let's unravel another layer of serpent lore, the idea that these cosmic beings are untouchable, impervious to harm. Nothing could be further from the truth. Take the Norse Jormungandr, the world-encircling serpent destined to battle Thor at Ragnarok. Despite its immense power, even this colossal creature isn't fearless. Ancient poems hint at Jormungandr's unease around Thor, its arch-nemesis, suggesting a vulnerability beneath those scaly coils. When the two finally clash, it's a mutual kill, proof that neither god nor serpent walks away unscathed. Then there's the Babylonian Tiamat, the primordial serpent dragon of chaos. She's often painted as an unstoppable force, yet her myth reveals a critical weakness. The god Marduk defeats her not with brute strength alone, but by exploiting her own nature, using winds to inflate her body like a balloon before piercing her with arrows. It's a clever, almost tactical takedown, showing that even the most formidable serpents have chinks in their armor. And let's not overlook the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the fiery serpent weapon of Huitzilopochtli. Though it blazes with destructive power, it's ultimately a tool, one that can be wielded, broken, or even outmaneuvered. These stories remind us that cosmic serpents, for all their grandeur, are far from invincible. They can be outsmarted, outmatched, or even undone by their own traits. Next up, we'll dive into a surprising connection: how serpent myths eerily parallel modern science, from DNA's double helix to the twists of quantum physics. The cosmic serpent's influence might be closer than we think. But here's something that might surprise you. These ancient serpent myths aren't just fantastical stories. They echo in the very fabric of modern science. Take the structure of DNA, for example. That iconic double helix, it coils just like a pair of intertwined serpents, mirroring the caduceus symbol from Greek mythology, where two snakes spiral around a staff. It's almost as if our ancestors glimpsed the blueprint of life itself and encoded it in serpentine symbolism. Then there's the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. While it's an ancient symbol of cyclicality, it also finds an eerie home in quantum physics. Scientists use the Ouroboros to illustrate theories about self-sustaining energy loops and the idea that particles can be both creators and destroyers in a never-ending cycle. Even the neural pathways in our brains branch and twist like serpents, with synapses firing in patterns that resemble the sinuous movements of a snake. And let's not forget the Hindu concept of Kundalini energy, often depicted as a coiled serpent at the base of the spine. Modern neuroscience reveals that this isn't just metaphor. The spinal cord and its nerve bundles literally mirror this serpentine imagery, linking ancient spiritual practices to our understanding of the nervous system. So the next time you hear a cosmic serpent myth, remember, it might be closer to science than superstition. Up next, we'll explore how these serpents sometimes play surprising supporting roles, lurking in the margins of myths yet shaping the cosmos in ways you'd never expect. Now, let's shift our focus to a myth that often flies under the radar. The idea that cosmic serpents always take center stage in creation stories. While many of these serpentine beings command attention as primary creators or destroyers, some play quieter yet equally vital roles in the background. Take Typhon from Greek mythology, for instance. This monstrous giant is often remembered for his 100 dragon heads, but it's his serpentine legs that tie him to the Earth's chaotic forces. Though not the main villain, those twisting limbs symbolize the raw, untamed power lurking beneath the surface of the world. Then there's Nidhogg, the Norse serpent who doesn't bask in the spotlight like Jormungandr. Instead, it lurks beneath Yggdrasil, the world tree, gnawing at its roots. This isn't just mindless destruction. Nidhogg's constant chewing serves as a reminder of decay and renewal, a necessary counterbalance to the tree's life-giving branches. Without this serpent, the cosmic cycle would stall, proving that even the most overlooked roles can hold immense significance. So while cosmic serpents often dominate myths as grand creators or apocalyptic forces, their quieter contributions are just as fascinating. Next, we'll unravel how some of these serpents blur the line between literal beings and powerful metaphors, shaping our understanding in ways that go beyond the obvious. Now, let's peel back another layer of serpent mythology, one that challenges the assumption that these beings are always physical creatures. Not all cosmic serpents slither through stories as literal entities. Some exist as powerful symbols, weaving through human thought in ways that transcend flesh and scale. Take Kundalini, for example. In Hindu and yogic traditions, this coiled serpent energy lies dormant at the base of the spine, awakening through spiritual practice to unlock higher consciousness. Here, the serpent isn't a beast to fear, but a metaphor for transformation, its ascent mirroring the journey toward enlightenment. Then there's Freud's interpretation of the serpent as temptation. In psychoanalysis, the serpent slithers into the subconscious, representing repressed desires or the primal ID. This isn't a creature you'd find in a garden. It's a psychological construct, a shadowy force shaping human behavior from within. Even the Ouroboros, that ancient symbol of a serpent eating its tail, takes on new meaning in alchemy. It's not just a mythical monster, but a representation of eternal cycles, creation and destruction, life and death, all bound in one endless loop. These metaphorical serpents prove that their power isn't confined to physical form. Whether as spiritual energy, psychological archetypes, or cosmic symbols, they shape our understanding of the world in ways far more nuanced than any literal beast could. Next, we'll see how serpents and birds, often seen as opposites, sometimes intertwine in surprising harmony. Now, let's untangle another fascinating thread in serpent mythology, the idea that serpents and birds are always locked in opposition. While many myths pit these creatures against each other, some of the most intriguing stories reveal a deeper harmony between them. Take Quetzalcoatl, the famed feathered serpent of Mesoamerica. Far from being a simple hybrid, this deity embodies the union of earth and sky, with the serpent's grounded wisdom merging with the bird's celestial freedom. Quetzalcoatl isn't just a mix of traits, he's a bridge between worlds, symbolizing balance in Aztec cosmology. Then there's the Garuda and Naga rivalry from Hindu and Buddhist lore. Traditionally, the eagle-like Garuda and the serpentine Naga are sworn enemies, with Garuda devouring Nagas as his natural prey. But in Bali, this dynamic shifts. Here, their conflict transforms into a sacred truce, depicted in temple carvings where the two creatures intertwine peacefully. This isn't just a ceasefire, it's a symbolic resolution of opposites, showing how chaos and order can coexist. Even in ancient Egypt, the serpent and bird motif appears in the Ouroboros, the cobra perched on the pharaoh's crown alongside the falcon of Horus. Together, they represent divine authority and protection, proving that these creatures aren't always at odds. Whether as merged deities, reconciled rivals, or paired symbols, serpents and birds reveal a shared language of duality, one that transcends simple conflict to explore unity in myth. Next, we'll see how some cosmic serpents defy the notion of being ancient, appearing in stories far younger than we might expect. Now, let's shatter another assumption, that all cosmic serpents emerge from the dawn of time itself. While many, like the Babylonian Tiamat, are primordial forces of chaos, others enter the scene much later, shaped by very human emotions. Take Japan's Yamata no Orochi, the eight-headed serpent born not from ancient void but from the wrath of the god Izanagi. After fleeing the underworld, Izanagi's fury during his purification ritual literally drips into the world, transforming into this monstrous serpent. Unlike Tiamat, who existed before gods or order, Yamata no Orochi is a product of divine temper, showing how serpents can embody fresh chaos rather than primal origins. Then there's the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the fire serpent forged by the gods as a weapon during the fifth sun's creation. This serpent isn't a leftover from the beginning, it's a crafted tool, born in the middle of cosmic history to execute divine will. Even the Norse Jormungandr, though vast and ancient, is technically younger than the primordial giant Ymir, proving that not all world serpents are firstborns of creation. What's fascinating here is how these younger serpents carry the same weight as their primordial cousins. Yamata no Orochi demands human sacrifice, Quetzalcoatl brings apocalyptic fire, and Jormungandr triggers Ragnarok. Their power isn't diminished by their late arrival. This flips the script on the idea that only the oldest serpents hold real cosmic significance. Whether born from wrath, forged as weapons, or spawned mid-myth, these serpents remind us that creation isn't a one-time event, but an ongoing drama where new forces constantly emerge. Next, we'll see how some serpents blur the line between deity and mortal, wearing faces startlingly like our own. But here's where the cosmic serpent defies expectation yet again, by stepping into our own image. Far from being distant, alien forces, many of these serpents mirror humanity in startling ways. Take the Naga kings of Hindu and Buddhist lore, serpent deities who don't just interact with humans but marry them, blending divine and mortal worlds. These Nagas rule underwater kingdoms with jeweled palaces, wear crowns, and even engage in diplomacy, showcasing political savvy that feels eerily human. Then there's the Ethiopian Jebeloi, a serpent queen whose cunning rivals any human ruler. In legends, she doesn't just coil in the shadows, she governs, strategizes, and outwits her enemies with a mind as sharp as her fangs. Her stories paint her less as a mindless monster and more as a sovereign, one whose intelligence mirrors the Machiavellian rulers of our own history. Even the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, often depicted as a feathered serpent, takes on human traits when he descends to earth as Quetzalcoatl, a priest-king who teaches arts, agriculture, and governance. His story blurs the line between god and mortal, serpent and statesman. What makes these examples so compelling is how they challenge the idea that cosmic serpents are purely otherworldly. By adopting human emotions, ambitions, and even flaws, they become relatable yet never lose their awe-inspiring power. Whether ruling kingdoms, forging alliances, or teaching civilizations, these serpents prove that divinity and humanity aren't opposites, but intertwined threads in the same mythic tapestry. Next, we'll see how serpent myths refuse to stay isolated, weaving into other legends in unexpected ways. Now let's unravel another layer of serpent mythology, the idea that these stories exist in isolation. Nothing could be further from the truth. Serpent myths often weave into other legends, creating a rich tapestry of shared themes and borrowed imagery. Take the Babylonian Tiamat, the primordial serpent of chaos. She doesn't just stand alone. Her story merges with dragon motifs across cultures, from the Greek Typhon to the Hindu Vritra. These serpents and dragons share more than just scales. They embody chaos, creation, and the untamed forces of nature, showing how myths bleed into one another. Then there's Leviathan, the biblical sea serpent. Its tail echoes the Canaanite Lotan, a seven-headed dragon slain by the storm god Baal. The parallels are unmistakable. Both are chaos monsters, both are defeated by divine heroes, and both symbolize the struggle between order and chaos. This isn't coincidence, it's cultural cross-pollination, proving that serpent myths are anything but isolated. Even the Aztec Quetzalcoatl finds echoes in the Mayan Kukulkan, both feathered serpents linked to wind, wisdom, and the cycles of time. These connections reveal how myths travel, adapt, and evolve, refusing to stay confined to one culture or tradition. So the next time you hear a serpent myth, ask yourself, where else does this story appear? Because in the world of mythology, serpents don't just slither through one tale. They weave through them all, binding legends together in ways that defy borders and time. Up next, we'll explore how some serpents create worlds not by design but by accident, or even chaos. Now let's tackle a fascinating twist in serpent mythology, the idea that every act of creation by these cosmic beings is deliberate. That's not always the case. Sometimes the world emerges from sheer accident or even chaos. Take the African Ado Hwido, the great serpent of the Fon people. As it coiled and slithered across the primordial earth, its massive body didn't just shape the land intentionally. It left behind mountains and valleys almost as an afterthought. The very act of its movement, not some grand plan, sculpted the world we know. Then there's Greek mythology's Echidna, the half-serpent, half-woman mother of monsters. Her brood creatures like the Hydra and Cerberus weren't crafted with purpose. They were born from chaos, a spillover of raw, untamed power. These beings weren't part of some divine blueprint. They were accidents of existence, reminders that creation isn't always neat or intentional. Even in Hindu lore, the serpent Anantashesha, who floats in the cosmic ocean, doesn't actively shape the universe. Instead, his mere presence, his coils serving as a bed for the god Vishnu, becomes the foundation of reality. It's not about intention, it's about being. So the next time you picture a cosmic serpent weaving the world into existence, remember, not all creation is calculated. Sometimes the most profound things emerge from the unplanned, the chaotic, or even the unintended. Up next, we'll see how serpents aren't always humanity's foes. Some are protectors, guides, or even culture bringers. But here's the thing, serpents aren't just the villains of the story. In fact, many cultures celebrate them as guardians, teachers, even allies. Take the Chinese legend of Bai Suzhen, the white snake spirit. Far from a monster, she's a compassionate figure who uses her magic to heal the sick and protect the innocent. Her story flips the script, showing a serpent who embodies love and sacrifice, not destruction. Then there's the Ethiopian Zemioc, a serpent revered as a sacred protector. Local traditions tell of its role in shielding villages from harm, its presence seen as a blessing rather than a curse. This isn't some mindless beast, it's a divine guardian woven into the fabric of community life. And let's not forget the Hopi people's snake clan. For them, serpents aren't just symbols, they're culture bringers. The snake clan's rituals honor the serpent as a mediator between worlds, a creature that taught humans agriculture and spiritual wisdom. These stories shatter the myth that serpents are humanity's enemies. Instead, they reveal a far richer truth. Sometimes the serpent isn't the adversary, it's the guide. Up next, we'll see how serpent symbols aren't just ancient relics. They've been twisted, reclaimed, and even weaponized across history. Now let's peel back another layer. Serpent symbols are far from neutral. They've been wielded as tools of power, twisted to serve agendas across history. Take the Aztec Quetzalcoatl, the fiery serpent. While it symbolized renewal in some contexts, rulers like Moctezuma weaponized it as a war emblem, etching its image onto shields and banners to rally armies. This wasn't just mythology, it was propaganda, a divine stamp of approval for conquest. Then there's the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. In Gnostic traditions, it represented eternal cycles and divine unity. But fast forward to the 20th century, and the Nazis warped it, grafting the symbol onto their occult iconography to fuel twisted ideologies of racial purity. The same serpent that once whispered of infinity became a badge of hatred. Yet even in these distortions, there's a paradox. The Maori Taniwha, revered as tribal guardians, were sometimes claimed by rival factions to legitimize land disputes. Here, the serpent wasn't just a spiritual force, it was a political chess piece. These examples shatter any illusion that serpent myths exist in a vacuum. They're mirrors reflecting humanity's best and worst impulses, sacred one moment, weaponized the next. Up next, we'll see how serpents defy another stereotype. Their ties to water aren't as universal as you might think. Here's how the next section flows naturally from the previous one while introducing Myth 46 with a fresh transition. Now, let's slither into another misconception, the idea that serpents are universally tied to water. While many cosmic serpents do emerge from rivers or oceans, some thrive in the most unexpected realms. Take the Egyptian Neheb-Kau, a serpent deity who coiled through the scorching desert, embodying protection and royal power far from any watery domain. This wasn't just a creature of the Nile's banks, but a guardian of the arid sands, proving serpents adapt to landscapes as diverse as the cultures that revered them. Then there's the Vedic Anantashesha, the endless serpent who floats not in a cosmic ocean but in the void of space itself, cradling the god Vishnu on its coils. Contrast this with Shesha's other iterations, where it does dwell in primordial waters, showing how even within a single tradition, serpents defy rigid categorization. These myths remind us that the cosmic serpent isn't bound by elements. Whether suspended in the stars or basking in desert heat, its symbolism is as fluid as its form. This keeps the narrative dynamic, avoids repetition, and smoothly sets up the next myth's focus. Let's shatter another myth, that cosmic serpents are relics of ancient stories with no relevance to our modern world. Far from being stuck in the past, these serpentine symbols are slithering into the future, evolving alongside humanity's newest frontiers. Take artificial intelligence, for example. Some futurists now describe AI as a digital serpent, a coiled force of transformation, both creative and unpredictable, mirroring how ancient serpents symbolized knowledge and chaos. Like the Norse Jormungandr encircling the world, AI's influence loops around our digital age, raising questions about control and evolution. Then there's eco-mythology, where the serpent resurfaces as a potent metaphor for climate change. Imagine Gaia's cosmic serpent, once a symbol of Earth's fertility, now writhing in distress, floods, wildfires, and storms, echoing the chaotic power of deities like Tiamat or Leviathan. Activists and artists alike use serpent imagery to depict nature's retaliation, blending ancient myth with urgent modern warnings. And let's not forget transhumanism, where the serpent sheds its skin yet again. The Ouroboros, that timeless emblem of cycles, finds new life in debates about human augmentation and immortality. Could the serpent's promise of rebirth, echoed in everything from alchemy to Hindu Kundalini, hint at humanity's next leap? From Silicon Valleys to genetic codes, the cosmic serpent's legacy isn't just preserved, it's pulsating with fresh meaning, proving that myths never truly die. They simply adapt, waiting to strike when we least expect it. Now, let's unravel a persistent misconception: that serpent myths are just stories gathering dust in ancient texts with no living rituals to keep them alive. Nothing could be further from the truth. Across the globe, serpent deities are still honored with vibrant, living traditions that bridge the past and present. Take India's Naga Panchami, for example. Every year during the monsoon season, devotees offer milk, flowers, and prayers to stone carvings of cobras, celebrating the Naga spirits believed to guard water and fertility. Some even place bowls of milk near anthills, thought to be gateways to the serpent underworld. This isn't just folklore, it's a thriving practice passed down through generations, proving the Naga's enduring sacred role. Then there's Haiti, where the serpent god Damballa, one of the most revered figures in Vodou, is honored with elaborate ceremonies. Followers draw his sinuous form in cornmeal on temple floors, while dancers coil and sway like serpents in trance-like rhythms. Damballa isn't just a myth here, he's a living force of wisdom and creation. His rituals a direct line to the divine. And don't overlook the Pueblo peoples of the American Southwest, where serpent dances remain a cornerstone of cultural identity. Performers embody serpentine movements, their bodies weaving in sync with rattles and drums, invoking rain and renewal. These dances aren't mere reenactments, they're active prayers, tying communities to the earth's rhythms, just as their ancestors did. Far from being relics, these rituals pulse with life, showing how serpent myths aren't locked in the past, they're alive, breathing, and still shaping the world today. Now, let's tackle a myth that oversimplifies the cosmic serpent's nature, the idea that its duality is always perfectly balanced. While many serpent deities embody harmony between opposites like creation and destruction, not all fit neatly into this framework. Some serpents carry imbalanced or even contradictory roles, revealing just how complex these myths can be. Take the Christian serpent in the Garden of Eden, for instance. Over time, it's been painted as pure evil, a deceiver who led humanity astray. But this black and white portrayal clashes with earlier interpretations. In some Gnostic traditions, the same serpent is a bringer of enlightenment, offering Adam and Eve the knowledge of good and evil, a gift, not a curse. Here, the serpent's duality isn't balanced at all. It's a battleground of conflicting meanings shaped by who's telling the story. Then there's the Aztec rivalry between Quetzalcoatl and Tezcatlipoca. Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, symbolizes wisdom and creation, while Tezcatlipoca represents chaos and deception. Their struggle isn't a tidy equilibrium, it's a tense, unstable dance where neither force ever fully wins. This isn't balance, it's perpetual tension, a reminder that some dualities are meant to clash, not harmonize. Even in Hindu lore, the serpent Shesha supports the universe on his coils, a symbol of stability. Yet his counterpart, Kaliya, is a venomous menace until subdued by Krishna. These aren't mirrored opposites, they're extremes, showing how serpent myths often thrive in imbalance, not symmetry. The cosmic serpent's duality isn't a scales always, even kind of deal. It's messy, contested, and sometimes wildly uneven, and that's what makes these myths so endlessly fascinating. Now we arrive at the final myth, one that humbles even the most dedicated scholars. The idea that cosmic serpents are fully understood is perhaps the greatest illusion of all. Despite centuries of study, these ancient beings guard secrets that still defy explanation. Take the Ouroboros, that iconic serpent swallowing its own tail. Its earliest known depiction appears in Egyptian funerary texts, yet no one can say for certain where the symbol first emerged or how it spread across cultures from Greece to China. Was it a shared ancestral memory, a startling coincidence? The answers remain coiled in shadow. Even more puzzling is the serpent's near-universal presence in creation myths. From the Aboriginal rainbow serpent to the Norse Jormungandr, cultures with no known contact all envisioned serpents as world shapers. Why? Some suggest it's the serpent's ability to shed skin, symbolizing renewal. Others point to their sinuous form, mirroring rivers or the Milky Way. But these theories only scratch the surface, none fully explain the pattern's global grip. Consider, too, the contradictions that resist tidy resolution. Why do some serpents, like the Hindu Ananta, embody eternity, while others, like the Babylonian Tiamat, meet violent ends? Why do they shift genders, roles, and even moral alignments across myths? Each discovery seems to unravel new questions. The truth is, cosmic serpents aren't puzzles to be solved, they're invitations to wonder. They remind us that mythology isn't a closed book but a living conversation, one that still has much to whisper if we're willing to listen. So, what do you think? Are these serpents mere symbols, or do they point to something deeper, something humanity glimpsed but never fully grasped? Share your theories below, and don't forget to subscribe for more journeys into the unknown. As we untangle the final threads of this exploration, one thing becomes undeniably clear: the cosmic serpent defies simple definitions. Across 50 myths, we've witnessed these beings shape worlds and shatter them, embody both chaos and order, and slip between roles as villains, guardians, and everything in between. From Quetzalcoatl's feathered winds to Jormungandr's encircling coils, their stories are as varied as the cultures that birthed them. Yet, perhaps the most striking revelation isn't their differences but their contradictions. How can the same serpent symbolize eternal renewal in one myth and brutal destruction in another? Why do they appear as both solitary creators and cosmic adversaries? These paradoxes aren't flaws in the myths, they are proof of humanity's endless attempt to grasp the ungraspable. The serpent, it seems, is less a fixed symbol and more a canvas for our deepest questions about existence. So here's the challenge we leave you with. Is the cosmic serpent a force of chaos, a divine creator, or something even more profound? A mirror reflecting humanity's own complexities back at us? The answer might change depending on which myth you hold up to the light. That's the beauty of these stories. They don't just belong to the past, they're alive, evolving with every retelling. Now we turn the conversation over to you. Which serpent myth resonated most? Do you see these beings as symbols, or do you think ancient cultures were onto something deeper? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We're as eager to hear your theories as we are to keep unraveling these mysteries together. If you enjoyed this journey through the serpent's labyrinth, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Who knows what other enigmas we'll decode next? Until then, keep questioning, keep wondering, and remember, the oldest stories often hold the newest surprises.